Here's Wisconsin Wine Guy. We are back with another wine purge, and we're continuing on that line of the Michael and David winery. If you recall, the previous wine purge was the Earthquake 2005. And I said we're going to continue in that space of Michael and David and showcase another one of their wines, one of my favorites, from back in the day. So we're talking about an almost 2-decade-old wine, 19 years, 2005. So now, this wine is going to be Petite Petite 2005, a blend of Petite Sirah and Petite Verdot. Now, outside of those who've been following me, know I'm a Merlot drinker. Outside of Merlot, the second wine that I had in my earlier years of drinking wine was a Petite Sirah. And I had been a fan, we're talking back in the 80s, and I was a fan of Petite Sirah ever since. It kind of fell out of fashion. Wines, or I should say, wine grapes or varietals, they go like this. This varietal is hot, that varietal is hot. Then you don't hear about this varietal anymore. Then another one takes its place. So it just jumps around. What's going to be hot? Basically what's going to be marketed. But I say to you, let your palate be the guide and find varietals that you enjoy and continue to drink those and try those over the years. But always explore more. Okay, so now Petite Petite. In my opinion, this was one of the first wines in the Freakshow line that I saw going back when I had my wine shop in the early 2000s, early to mid 2000s, and attending a portfolio tasting. I missed those portfolio tastings, so I'm going to give you this journey while I talk about it. So, attended the portfolio tasting, and in my area, believe it or not, I was the only one that purchased the Petite Petite at that time. So it was the 2004 vintage, and I wish I had this idea of sharing the purge then, but it was a 2004 vintage that I first brought into the store. The year was 2006 or 7, and my concept was $10 to $15, and this is one of the ones that I brought in that sold at $25 a bottle. Every now and then I would have an exceptional bottle that would sell above that, and the Petite Petite of 2004 vintage was one of those wines that came in and sold above that price point. It sold like crazy. People just absolutely loved it, and I loved it too, and had been a fan. Then the 2005 vintage came around, and I did very well with that as well. But as usual, we have to keep going and keep introducing your clientele to different varietals, different grapes. Now, move forward. I had the 2004, couple of 2004s and 2005 vintages I had on hand. And I put up, let's see, the latest vintage at that time was a 2015. So I put up in a blind tasting my 2004 vintage up against a 2015 in a blind tasting. Killed it. Absolutely killed it at that time. Okay, this was like the year 2016, 2017, and someone had 2015, put it in a blind tasting, killed it. I mean, the wines of that time period, early 2000s, in my opinion, were just phenomenal. A lot of them were just phenomenal to me, and so I'm very curious of how this has aged. So, from the winery to the distributor to my store, to my stores, it had 1, 2, 3 booths, or 3 very, very temperatures to its resting place, where it was a previous resting place. So right here on my wine rack, always maintaining a current temperature. When the wines were moved, they were moved the last, and it went from, you may have another cork situation here. I love these exploding corks. And it went from, that was pretty good. So, we have a little cork situation. Let's see if we can get this cork out. Good thing I have my strainer and my Haley's corker, for that, which is why you decant some of these wines. So you can see that, okay? So it went from my cellar to the storage containers, or the moving containers, to, slowly, to its resting place. Each time the wine was moved. So far so good. Each time the wine was moved. Okay, so we got another exploding cork here, and that's okay. That's why you decant. That's why you decant the wine. And that coloring on that cork, man, is just marvelous. And this wine did lay down this entire time. you know, and spent the last week being upright. But we're talking a wine that's 20 years old, right? 20 years old. Make sure that corkscrew is not touching. Ooh, that's really in there too. Not touching the juice itself. And here we go. So I always enjoy doing these to share with you if this wine maintained its integrity for the length of time that I had it. I tell you though, these exploding corks, I have to get into that little deal, you know, where you can like heat the bottle and cut the top of the bottle off, so thereby the cork and part of the bottle stays together. Ooh, there it is. Now we're down at the actual cork. Ooh, that smells great. So that filtering is going to be very important in this case. That decanting is going to be very, very important for this wine. Wow, 20 years. Man, one more scoop out here, and we are going to be good. All right, so there we go. Another disintegrated cork, right? What do you expect, huh? So we're going to get a little bit of this strained out. So again, 2005 vintage, 2005 alcohol is going to be 14.5%. Let's see if we can get some of this poured out. So I have my strainer and my Haley's corker, and I can see some of that cork residue floating in that strainer. Now, that's going to be for this. Now we're going to pour some into the glass. Let's strain it into the glass as well, because we do have some cork residue here. This smells wonderful. I mean, that's probably one of the first tests for me, is the color and the nose. Okay? Now, I will tell you this. As I taste this wine, I'm going to share with you what I thought about the wine at the time of purchasing, and tell you what it tastes like today. Okay? So, now, here we go. For that wine. Hey, look at that color. Isn't that coloring beautiful? So it maintains, it's a little bit lighter than originally, but I mean, you're gonna have some dropping of color. Okay, I can see the cork residue floating around in that bottle. How cool is that? Let's get this back in the picture here. You know, so but it still has nice coloring. Okay, but it's dropped a little bit of color, so it's a little bit lighter. You know, the nose. Get both of these. The nose is going to be, ooh, wow, plum and spice on the nose. With some subtle oak notes. I mean, the nose is beautiful. Of course, get to let it air out some more, because it's been in the bottle for almost 20 years, right? So I'm going to really let it air out. This is where decanting is very, very important. Not only just to separate some of that cork residue that may fall in, but also some of the sediment that may be in there, in addition to aerating the wine. So now, this is coming straight from the bottle. Let's pour some of this into the glass, and this is going to be from the decanter. Let's see how different they're going to be. Okay? So, the decanter, or decanted wine, is straight from the bottle. Ooh. You know, normally I say I like it, the nose better from the being decanted versus from the bottle, but in this case, the bottle, because there's a lot more focus. Straight from the bottle has a lot more focused nose to it. But it is really open. Now here, coming from the bottle, is fruit first, plum, dark berries, spice, and then oak. Here, it's all blended together, but light on the fruit, but and more on the subtle oak nose to it. But still, ooh, some vanilla notes too. Wow, so now let's give it a taste. So I actually like the nose on them both, but I like the intensity and the focus of the fruit coming from the bottle. Here we go. Mm. Oh wow. Has that dry finish, medium tannins. A lot of that flavor has dropped from what I remember. It was so dense, back in 2005. But again, it's been sitting up, I mean, you can see that sediment, maybe you can't see it, but I can see it on the sides of the bottles here. But acidity is nice. The structure I feel is nice too. I think it's going to be great with food. Now for the decanted. In comparison, the decanted one is a lot smoother, a lot more balanced. But they both are good. It's a lot smoother, a lot more balanced in the decanted one. A lot more aeration. Wow. Now, which do I like best? Again, I like the decanted one best. 2005 compared to 2004, I thought they both were exceptional years for the Petite Petite. I need to try in the 20s, the roaring 20s, and see what it's tasting like today. But this is another winner. It aged nicely. Too bad on the cork, but that's going to happen with the cork. That's why you have to decant and strain. But it held its own. Too bad it's my last one. I'm going to enjoy this wine still. And I'm going to see if I can find something to go with it. There you have it. Your wine purge of the 2005 Petite Petite from Michael and David. Lodi fruit. It's your Wisconsin wine guy saying, as always, don't sit on your wines. Purge those wines. I see you in the next purge. Ciao.